Massive attack, no protection. The song is Radiation Ruling the Nation.
Kind of a new record. Very. In a minute. Very nice, Rob. A sly declaration of new classic status slipped into a list of old safe ones. Very pussy.
Excuse me, I was
in a minute. Couldn't you be any more obvious than that, Rob? How about, I don't know, the Beatles? How about fucking Beethoven? Track 1, side 1 of the 5th Symphony. How can someone who has no interest in music own a record store?
You guys are snob.
No, we're not.
No, seriously, you're totally elitist. You feel like the unappreciated scholars, so you shit on the people who know less than you.
No.
Which is everybody.
Yeah.
The ultimate gig for a high school music junkie is working at a record store. Gary landed at one of the country's largest. Record World in Uniondale, Long Island was the company's flagship location and transformed Gary into the quintessential music elitist.
When I worked at the record store, we were really the biggest snobs in the world. And we were all like-minded. We were there for the music, we were there for the discount, but we were there because we believed in the music, and we were there to push the records that we believed in, and we made fun of bands that were sellouts, and we were going to sell records of bands that we loved. REM had an EP out. We were going to let everybody know that this is the coolest band ever. And yeah, we were total idiots. We were total snobs. On the flip side of that, there I learned so much more because there were so many genres of music that you had to know a little bit about, that you had to be well versed in. So I learned about classical, I learned about opera, I learned about marching band music, I learned about Nina Mouskouri, just weird things that you didn't know about, and that was cool too. I wouldn't say I listened to all that stuff, I just had a greater awareness of a lot of other artists. The first show I ever went to see when I was growing up was Led Zeppelin 2 nights in a row at the Nassau Coliseum, which is like saying the first woman I ever slept with was a porn star, because everything after that was sort of crappy. They opened with rock and roll. Their first encore was Stairway to Heaven. They played Communication Breakdown in the second encore. I mean, just unbelievable. It was a physical graffiti tour. And so I stupidly thought every concert was like that because there was electricity. Outside, everybody was scalping tickets. When you got in, it was packed. You could move around. When they took the stage, the whole place just blew up. And then the next concert I went to see later on that year was Jethro Tull. And while they were very good, none of that was going on. It was probably about 80% sold out. Nobody was freaking out outside. The electricity wasn't there. It was probably a great show, but it was a disappointment to me because it wasn't what Led Zeppelin was. And then after that, I vaguely remember seeing the Doobie Brothers. You just went to see whatever you could get into. Sometimes we just try to sneak in.
Despite a handful of disappointments post-Zeppelin, Gary started to develop a knack for seeing legendary concerts. His first Springsteen show occurred during the historic run at Nassau Coliseum, leading up to New Year's Eve 1980. His first Springsteen experience was very personal and very traumatic.
My buddy Steve and I, we got tickets. They were directly across from the stage, second row from the top. I mean, really as far away from the stage as you could be. And it was one of the greatest shows I ever saw. Bruce made the Coliseum seem like his living room. Bruce starts doing those raps before the song. And that's part of when I say made it sound like his living room. Like Bruce is talking to me one-on-one. I swear to God. I know it sounds stupid, and I'm a senior in high school. I should know better at this point.
When I was growing up, me and my dad used to go at it all the time over almost anything. But I used to have really long hair, way down past my shoulders. I was 17 or 18. Oh man, he used to hate it.
And I remember going to see him again not long after that, and he did all the same raps again, and I remember almost going home like pissed off. This is bullshit, man. He's a phony, he's a fake and everything. And then it took me a couple of days and I sort of calmed down and I said, well, of course he has to speak to different people every night. It's not phony, but it's a testament to how much he made me think he was talking to me or to our audience alone. Like it's almost like he was just talking to us. And that's how great he was at telling those stories. And a couple of days later, I did forgive him.
After graduating at Delphi University with numerous radio internships under his belt, Gary took a part-time job at WNBC in New York City, a massive 50,000-watt superstation with two of the most powerful personalities in the industry, Don Imus and Howard Stern.
66 WNBC.
I was working as an assistant to the traffic reporter in the news department, and my internship at WLAR had been in the news department. I sort of thought that's where I was going to be, and never imagining I would land in talk radio. Growing up with my dad, when I used to go to work with him on Saturdays, he was a huge talk radio fan. Bob Grant and all the other stations that played that stuff. We listened to this guy at night named Long John Neville. When I got to NBC, I worked with the traffic reporter, but it was a job, for just a stepping stone for me to figure out how to get to the next place, and that's where I met it with Howard.
Gary never imagined that this stepping stone would change his life forever. Howard Stern's producer, Boy Lee Davis, left the show, paving the way for Gary to apply for the position. In those days, a radio producer for a personality like Howard Stern amounted to little more than entry-level pay and experience. But Gary threw everything he had into the job and impressed the boss on day one.
11 past 3 o'clock, your pal, how weird. Thank you. Robin Quivers is here, of course. Earth Dog Fred. Boy Gary.
Oh.
Boy Lee's replacement.
Boy G.
Already he's doing a better job than Lee did. I already gave him several difficult tasks, and he's handled all of them quite well.
Is that right? Well, that's good to hear.
Very impressed with this new boy.
I hope you continue to progress in this manner.
Yeah. And we'll be finding out more about Boy Gary as the days goes on.
Good, because I don't know anything about him.
Well, I really don't either. I just kind of hired him on a lark. Everyone told me he was a decent human being.
Yeah?
So I hired him.
Looks kind of swarthy.
Yeah, he does. What ethnic, what is he, anyway? You're not a Jew, are you?
Italian?
Italian.
You hired an Italian?
I like Italians. Italians, the last kid I hired was a Jew, and they're not too good at serving.
Despite being fired from NBC, Stern quickly landed on his feet at a fledgling New York City rock station, WXRK, also known as K-Rock, ultimately bringing Gary and the gang along with him. With newfound freedom and a morning drive slot, Howard's popularity exploded, spawning loyal disciples who would preach the gospel to anyone who would listen. Gary started to see certain parallels between his boss and the boss.
I think with Howard and Bruce, there's a bit of a correlation where their fans are so rabid. Both of them, their fans would follow them into the sea. Sometimes there's a backlash from outsiders in the sense that as a fan, there's a mania that if you're not a fan, you're like, what are you putting all that energy into? He's just a singer, he's just a radio guy. But, and then you say, but he's better than all the rest. And he's that good that it's worth it to go see him. And it's worth it to listen to him every day. And there's no doubt that people do not understand that. The thing that always bummed me out was I was such a big Bruce fan from day one, and Howard had zero interest. And I would talk about Bruce all the time, and he's just like, I don't know, man, I never got that. I just didn't get that. We would get the records the day they came out, so the record company would be like, hey, you want to break the Bruce record? So we'd like, sure. So I gave it to Howard. I think it was Tunnel of Love. Howard puts it on, he just drops the needle on whatever song. And it was a 1 step up and 2 steps back, so he starts playing it. And Howard's like, what is he, an Okie from Muskogee?
Woke up this morning, the house was cold. Checked the furnace, she wasn't burning. Went out and hopped in my old Ford. Hit the engine, but she ain't turning.
And Howard just picks the needle up and he goes, do we have to hear every aspect of his life? And I was so bummed out. I was like, come on, can't you just like the guy?